"Don't marry her, she is a scammer," said the poor black maid. What the millionaire did next was shocking. Marcus Wellington stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his Manhattan penthouse, watching the city lights twinkle below. At 35, he had built a tech empire worth millions, but his heart felt empty. That was about to change, or so he thought. "Mr. Wellington, your coffee," came a soft voice behind him. He turned to see Grace, his housekeeper of 5 years. The 60-year-old woman had been more than just staff. She had become like family to him. Her dark skin glowed in the warm light of the apartment, but today, her usually cheerful face carried worry lines. "Thank you, Grace," Marcus said, taking the cup. "Is everything all right?" Grace hesitated, wringing her hands. "Mr. Wellington, I need to tell you something, but I'm afraid." Marcus set down his coffee and gave her his full attention. "Grace, you know you can tell me anything." "It's about Miss Victoria," Grace said, her voice barely above a whisper. Victoria Summers. Just thinking her name made Marcus smile. The stunning blonde had swept into his life 3 months ago at a charity gala. With her emerald eyes and infectious laugh, she had captured his heart instantly. They had been inseparable ever since, and just last week, Marcus had bought an engagement ring. "What about Victoria?" Marcus asked, though something in Grace's tone made his stomach tighten. "Don't marry her," Grace said suddenly, the words tumbling out. "She's a scammer." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Marcus stared at Grace, unable to process what he had just heard. "Grace, that's a serious accusation," Marcus said slowly. "What makes you say that?" Grace looked around nervously, as if Victoria might appear at any moment. "I've seen things, Mr. Wellington. Heard things. Phone calls she takes when she thinks no one is listening. Documents she quickly hides when I enter the room." Marcus felt his world tilting. "That doesn't mean she's a scammer, Grace. Maybe she's just private about her business." "There's more," Grace continued, her voice gaining strength. "Last week, when you were in Tokyo for business, a man came to the apartment. Miss Victoria told me to take the day off, but I forgot my medication and had to come back. I saw them together, Mr. Wellington. They were looking at papers, and I heard them mention your name and something about the plan working perfectly." Marcus sank into his leather chair, his mind racing. Victoria had told him she was spending that day at a spa with friends. Why would she lie? "Did you recognize the man?" Marcus asked. Grace shook her head. "No, but he was young, maybe late 20s. Handsome. They seemed very comfortable together." A cold feeling settled in Marcus's chest. He thought about the past 3 months with Victoria. She had been perfect, too perfect, perhaps. She loved everything he loved, shared all his interests, never disagreed with him. At first, he thought he had found his soulmate. Now doubt crept in like poison. "Grace, I appreciate your concern," Marcus said carefully. "But I need proof before I can believe this. Victoria and I are planning to announce our engagement next week." Grace's eyes widened with alarm. "Mr. Wellington, please. I've worked for you for 5 years. Have I ever lied to you? Have I ever interfered in your personal life before?" She was right. Grace had always been discreet and professional. For her to speak up now meant she was genuinely worried. "What do you suggest I do?" Marcus asked. "Test her," Grace said simply. "Find out the truth before it's too late. A woman who loves you for you won't care about your money, but a scammer will reveal herself if she thinks the money is gone." Marcus spent the rest of the night thinking about Grace's words. By morning, he had formed a plan. It was risky, but he needed to know the truth about the woman he was planning to marry. The next evening, Victoria arrived at the penthouse looking radiant in a red dress. She kissed Marcus hello, but he noticed she seemed to study his face carefully. "Is everything okay, darling?" she asked, running her fingers through his dark hair. "You seem tense." Marcus took a deep breath. This was it. "Victoria, I need to tell you something. There's been a problem with my company." Her smile faltered slightly. "What kind of problem?" "A major lawsuit." Marcus lied, watching her reaction carefully. "A former partner is claiming ownership of our core technology. My lawyers say if we lose, I could lose everything. The company, the penthouse, all of it. Victoria's face went pale. She sat down slowly on the couch. Everything? But surely you have money saved elsewhere. It's all tied up in the company, Marcus continued, hating himself for the deception but needing to know. If I lose this lawsuit, I'll have to start over from nothing. I might even have to move back to my hometown in Ohio, get a regular job. Victoria was silent for a long moment. When she looked up, tears were in her eyes. Oh, Marcus, this is terrible. When will you know? The hearing is next week, Marcus said. The same week we were going to announce our engagement. Victoria, I understand if you want to postpone. Postpone. Victoria stood up abruptly. Yes, I think that would be wise. We should wait until this is all sorted out. Marcus felt his heart sink. A woman truly in love would stand by him, rich or poor. But he needed to be sure. Over the next few days, Victoria's behavior changed dramatically. She canceled 3 dinner dates, claiming she wasn't feeling well. When they did meet, she seemed distracted, constantly checking her phone. She asked detailed questions about the lawsuit, wanting to know exactly how much he might lose. Grace watched it all with knowing eyes, but said nothing more. She simply went about her work, occasionally giving Marcus sympathetic looks. On the 4th day of his deception, Marcus decided to take the test further. He called Victoria and asked her to meet him for lunch at a modest cafe instead of their usual 5-star restaurants. I need to start being more careful with money, he explained when she arrived, looking out of place in the simple setting. Just in case. Victoria picked at her sandwich, barely eating. Marcus, I've been thinking. Maybe I should go visit my sister in California for a while. Just until this lawsuit is resolved. You need to focus on your legal problems, without distractions. You want to leave? Marcus asked, his heart breaking even as his suspicions were confirmed. Now, when I need you most. Victoria reached across the table and took his hand. Her touch felt cold. It's for the best, darling. I'll come back when everything is sorted out. That evening, Marcus sat in his home office, staring at the engagement ring he had bought. The 10-carat diamond seemed to mock him with its brilliance. Grace knocked and entered with his dinner. She's packing, Grace said quietly. I saw her putting clothes in suitcases. Marcus nodded, not trusting himself to speak. I'm sorry, Mr. Wellington, Grace continued. I know you loved her. I loved who I thought she was, Marcus corrected. But I need to know the whole truth, Grace. Who is she really? Who was that man you saw? Grace set down the dinner tray. I might be able to find out more. My niece works at the hotel where Miss Victoria stayed before she met you. She might know something. Please, Marcus said. Find out whatever you can. 2 days later, Grace returned with information that made Marcus's blood run cold. Victoria Summers wasn't even her real name. She was actually Veronica Sullivan, and she had a history of targeting wealthy men. The man Grace had seen was her partner, possibly her real boyfriend, who helped her run the cons. My niece says she's done this at least 3 times before, Grace explained. Always the same pattern. Meet a rich man, make him fall in love, get engaged, then find ways to access his money. One man in Chicago lost $500,000 before he realized what was happening. Marcus felt sick. He had been so lonely, so eager to find love, that he had been blind to the warning signs. But now he had a choice to make. He could simply let Victoria leave, cut his losses, and move on. Or he could expose her for what she was. That night, Victoria came to say goodbye. She had called earlier, saying she had booked a flight to California for the next morning. Marcus noticed she was wearing the expensive jewelry he had given her, a diamond necklace, earrings, and a Cartier watch. I'll miss you, she said, though her eyes were dry. But this is for the best. When you've resolved everything, call me. Actually, Marcus said, standing up, I have news about the lawsuit. Victoria's eyes lit up with interest. Oh, it's been dropped, Marcus announced. Turns out the whole thing was a misunderstanding. My lawyers sorted it out this morning. I'm not losing anything. The transformation in Victoria's face was instant. The sadness vanished, replaced by a brilliant smile. "Oh, Marcus. That's wonderful." She threw her arms around him. "I'm so relieved. So you'll stay?" Marcus asked, playing along. "Of course." "Oh, I need to call the airline and cancel my flight." She pulled out her phone, then paused. "Actually, we should celebrate. Should I call Pierre's for reservation?" Pierre's was the most expensive restaurant in the city. Marcus almost laughed at how quickly she had gone from leaving him to planning expensive dinners. "Actually," Marcus said, "I have a better idea. Why don't we have a party tomorrow night? Invite all our friends. We can announce our engagement like we originally planned." Victoria's eyes sparkled with greed disguised as joy. "That's perfect. Oh, I should go shopping for a new dress. And we'll need champagne, lots of champagne. The good stuff." "Whatever you want," Marcus said, watching her mentally spend his money. "But first, there's someone I want you to meet properly." He called for Grace, who entered the room with quiet dignity. "Victoria, I don't think you've ever really talked to Grace," Marcus said. "She's been with me for 5 years. She's like family to me." Victoria barely glanced at the older woman. "Yes, hello," she said dismissively, already looking at her phone, probably browsing designer dresses. "Grace is the one who warned me about the lawsuit," Marcus continued, watching Victoria carefully. "She overheard a phone call that tipped me off. If it wasn't for her, I might have lost everything." Victoria's fingers froze on her phone. She looked up slowly, her eyes meeting Grace's for the first time with real attention. "Is that so?" Victoria said, her voice tight. Grace stood tall, meeting Victoria's gaze steadily. "I always look out for Mr. Wellington's best interests." The tension in the room was palpable. Victoria's mask was slipping, revealing something cold and calculating beneath. "Well," Victoria said, forcing a smile, "how fortunate that Marcus has such loyal staff." The way she said staff was like a slap, meant to put Grace in her place. "Grace isn't staff," Marcus said firmly. "She's family, and her opinion matters to me. In fact, Grace, what do you think about Victoria and me getting married?" The room went silent. Victoria's face flushed red, her hands clenching into fists. Grace looked between them, understanding dawning in her eyes. "I think," Grace said slowly, "that Mr. Wellington deserves someone who loves him for who he is, not what he has." "How dare you?" Victoria exploded, her careful composure finally shattering. "You're just a maid. You have no right to opinion about your employer's personal life." "She has every right," Marcus said calmly, "because she cares about me. Really cares. Not about my money, or my penthouse, or my status. Just me." Victoria turned to Marcus, her face cycling through emotions as she tried to salvage the situation. "Marcus, darling, you're not going to let the help influence our relationship, are you? I love you." "Do you?" Marcus asked. "Then why were you so quick to leave when you thought I was losing my money? Why did you postpone our engagement? Why have you been packing for 2 days?" Victoria's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. I was just trying to give you space to deal with your problems." "Stop," Marcus said quietly. "Just stop. I know who you are, Veronica Sullivan. I know about Chicago, about Miami, about all of it." The color drained from Victoria's face. For a moment, she stood frozen. Then her expression hardened into something ugly. "You set me up," she hissed. "There was no lawsuit." "No," Marcus admitted. "But you showed your true colors anyway. You're good, I'll give you that. You almost had me completely fooled. But Grace saw through you from beginning." Victoria whirled on Grace, her face contorted with rage. "You ruined everything. You had no business interfering." "I had every business protecting someone I care about," Grace replied with dignity. "That's what real love looks like, Miss Sullivan. Something you wouldn't understand." Victoria grabbed her purse, her movements sharp and angry. "You'll regret this, Marcus. You could have had me. Instead, you're choosing to believe a maid over the woman you love." "The woman I loved never existed," Marcus said sadly. "She was just a character you were playing. And Grace isn't just a maid. She's shown me more genuine care and concern in 5 years than you did in 3 months. Victoria stormed toward the door, then paused. What are you going to do? Call the police? Marcus shook his head. No. I just want you to leave and never come back. But I will be warning my friends about you. Your con artist days in New York are over. With a final glare at both of them, Victoria slammed out of the penthouse. Marcus heard the elevator doors close and felt like he could breathe again for the first time in days. He turned to Grace, who was watching him with motherly concern. Thank you, he said simply. You risked your job to warn me. I'll never forget that. Grace's eyes filled with tears. You're a good man, Mr. Wellington. You deserve real love, not whatever that woman was offering. Marcus walked over and, surprising them both, hugged the older woman. You know what? You're right. And I think I've been looking for love in all the wrong places. Over the next few weeks, life returned to normal. Marcus threw himself back into his work, but something had changed. He started seeing the world differently, paying attention to the people who had been there all along. He noticed how Grace always made sure he ate properly when he worked late, how she remembered his mother's birthday and reminded him to call, how she kept fresh flowers in the apartment because she knew they made him smile. He also started really talking to Grace, learning about her life. She had raised 3 children on her own after her husband died young. She had put them all through college by working multiple jobs. Her eldest daughter was a doctor now, her son a teacher, and her youngest daughter was finishing law school. You must be so proud, Marcus said one evening as they talked over coffee. I am, Grace said, her face glowing. They're good kids. They wanted me to retire, but I told them I'm not ready. I like my work. I like feeling useful. Well, I'm selfishly glad you didn't retire, Marcus admitted. I don't know what I would have done without you, especially with the Victoria situation. Grace patted his hand. You would have figured it out eventually, but I'm glad I could help you see the truth sooner. A month after Victoria left, Marcus made a decision. He called Grace into his office. I've been thinking, he said, about what you said that night, about deserving real love. Grace nodded, waiting for him to continue. You were right, but I've also been thinking about different kinds of love. The love of family, of true friendship. Grace, you've been more than an employee to me. You've been family, and I want to make that official. Grace looked confused. I don't understand. Marcus pulled out a document. I've set up a trust fund for your grandchildren's education. Full rides to any schools they want to attend. And I've put aside a retirement fund for you. So when you do decide to stop working, you'll be more than comfortable. Grace's hand flew to her mouth. Mr. Wellington, I can't accept this. It's too much. It's not nearly enough, Marcus said firmly. You saved me from making the biggest mistake of my life. You've cared for me like a son. Please, let me do this. Let me take care of your family the way you've taken care of me. Tears streamed down Grace's face as she hugged him tightly. You're going to make me cry and ruin my reputation as a tough old woman, she said, laughing through her tears. From that day forward, their relationship evolved. Grace was still technically his housekeeper, but she was so much more. She was his advisor, his conscience, his friend. Marcus made sure she worked fewer hours and had more time with her family. He attended her granddaughter's graduation and her grandson's piano recitals. 6 months after the Victoria incident, Marcus was having dinner with Grace and her family, when her daughter Maria, the doctor, said something that made him think. Mom always had a gift for reading people, Maria said, smiling at her mother. When we were kids, she could tell if we were lying from across the room. She just knows when something's not right. It's not a gift, Grace said modestly. I just pay attention. Most people are so busy looking at the surface, they miss what's underneath. Like I did with Victoria, Marcus said ruefully. You saw what you wanted to see, Grace said gently. We all do that sometimes. The important thing is you listened when someone who cared about you spoke up. Her youngest daughter, Jasmine, the law student, leaned forward. Mom told us what happened. That woman was a professional con artist. Your lucky mom was there. The luckiest, Marcus agreed, raising his glass in a toast. To Grace, who sees through the masks people wear. As they clinked glasses, Marcus realized something profound. He had spent so much time looking for love in glamorous packages that he had missed the genuine care that had been right in front of him all along. Grace had shown him what real loyalty looked like. A year passed. Marcus dated occasionally, but was no longer desperate to fill the void in his life. He had found fulfillment in unexpected places, in his friendship with Grace, in being part of her extended family, in mentoring young entrepreneurs from underprivileged backgrounds. One evening, Grace came to him with an unusual request. "Mr. Wellington, my church is having a charity auction to raise money for the youth center. Would you consider donating something?" "Of course," Marcus said immediately. "What do you need?" "Well, some of the ladies suggested, that is, they wondered if you might donate a dinner date with yourself," Grace said, looking embarrassed. "You know, highest bidder gets to have dinner with the millionaire bachelor, but I told them that was presumptuous." "I'll do it," Marcus interrupted, smiling. "It's for a good cause. Besides, it might be fun." The night of the auction, Marcus stood backstage at the community center, feeling oddly nervous. He peeked out at the crowd, seeing Grace in the front row with her family. The room was packed with people from the neighborhood, all dressed in their finest clothes. When it was time for his auction, the bidding was lively. Women of all ages participated, laughing and encouraging each other to bid higher. The winning bid came from a table in the back, but Marcus couldn't see who had won. "Sold for $5,000, the auctioneer announced. "Would our winner please come forward?" A woman stood up and made her way to the stage. She was around Marcus's age, with natural hair wrapped in a colorful headscarf and a warm smile. She wore a simple dress, but carried herself with confidence. "Hi," she said, extending her hand. "I'm Amara Johnson. I hope you don't mind, but I didn't bid on you for myself." Marcus raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Oh, it's for my grandmother," Amara explained. "She's turning 80 next week, and she's always reading about you in the business magazines. She thinks you're brilliant. I thought dinner with you would be the perfect birthday gift." Marcus was charmed by the gesture. "That's incredibly thoughtful. I'd be honored to have dinner with your grandmother." "Really?" Amara's face lit up. "She'll be so excited. Fair warning, though. She'll probably spend the whole dinner trying to set you up with one of her granddaughters." She laughed, then caught herself. "Oh no, I just realized that includes me. This is awkward." Marcus laughed too. "Well, now I'm definitely looking forward to this dinner." As Amara gave him her contact information, Grace appeared at his side. "That's Amara," she said approvingly. "She's a social worker at the youth center. Does amazing work with the kids. Her grandmother, Miss Ruby, is quite a character." The dinner with Miss Ruby turned out to be one of the most enjoyable evenings Marcus had experienced in years. The elderly woman was sharp, funny, and full of stories. True to Amara's prediction, she did spend a good portion of the meal extolling the virtues of her granddaughters, especially Amara. "She's special, that one," Miss Ruby said, pointing her fork at Marcus. "Got a master's degree, owns her own home, and still finds time to take care of her old grandmother. But she works too hard, never takes time for herself." Amara, who had joined them for dinner, buried her face in her hands. "Grandma, please." "What? I'm just making conversation," Miss Ruby said innocently. "Mr. Wellington, don't you think Amara should get out more?" Marcus caught Amara's eye and saw her embarrassment mixed with affection for her grandmother. "I think anyone who works with kids all day deserves some adult conversation now and then," he said diplomatically. After dinner, as Marcus was preparing to leave, Amara walked him out. "I'm so sorry about my grandmother. She means well, but she can be a bit much." "She's wonderful," Marcus said sincerely. "You're lucky to have her." "I know," Amara said softly. "She raised me after my parents died. Everything I am is because of her." There was something in the way she said it, the quiet strength and gratitude, that reminded Marcus of Grace. Here was someone else who understood the value of family, of loyalty, of genuine care. Would you maybe want to get coffee sometime? Marcus heard himself asking. I mean, just coffee. No grandmothers trying to matchmake. Amara smiled. I'd like that. Their coffee date turned into dinner, then a walk in the park, then a visit to a museum. Amara was different from anyone Marcus had dated before. She didn't care about his money. In fact, she insisted on paying for herself half the time. She was passionate about her work, funny, intelligent, and refreshingly honest. I Googled you after the auction, she admitted on their third date. I know about what happened with that woman last year, the one who turned out to be a con artist. Marcus tensed. Oh, Grace told my grandmother about it. Amara continued. Grandma told me. She said Grace saved you from a big mistake. She did, Marcus said, relaxing. Grace saw what I couldn't, or wouldn't. That's what family does, Amara said simply. They look out for you, even when you don't want them to. As weeks turned into months, Marcus found himself falling for Amara in a way that was completely different from his infatuation with Victoria. This was slower, deeper, based on shared values and genuine compatibility. Amara challenged him, made him laugh, and never pretended to be anything other than herself. Grace watched the relationship develop with quiet approval. One day, she pulled Marcus aside. This one's different, she said simply. I know, Marcus replied. She reminds me of you, actually. The way she cares for people, expects nothing in return. She's real, Grace. Then don't mess it up, Grace said with a smile. A year into their relationship, Marcus knew he wanted to marry Amara. But this time, he did things differently. He asked for Miss Ruby's blessing first, then spoke to Grace. I want to propose to Amara, he told her. But I want your honest opinion. Am I making another mistake? Grace took his hands in hers. Mr. Wellington, I've watched you with that girl for a year. I've seen how you are together. She loves you, the real you. Not your money, not your status. She loves the man who mentors kids at the youth center, who comes to Sunday dinner with her grandmother, who still asks his housekeeper for advice. So you approve? With my whole heart, Grace said, tears in her eyes. The proposal was simple and perfect. Marcus took Amara to the youth center, where they had first met, in front of the kids she worked with, her grandmother, and Grace. He got down on one knee. Amara Johnson, he said, his voice steady despite his nerves. You've shown me what real love looks like. It's not grand gestures or perfect words. It's showing up every day, being honest, caring for others, and building something real together. Will you marry me? Amara said yes through happy tears, and the youth center erupted in cheers. Miss Ruby and Grace hugged each other, two wise women who had helped guide their loved ones to happiness. The wedding was held at the community center, with Grace as Marcus's best woman and Miss Ruby as Amara's matron of honor. It wasn't the society wedding Marcus might have once imagined, but it was perfect, filled with genuine joy, real friends, and the kind of love that lasts. In his wedding speech, Marcus raised a toast to Grace, to the woman who saved me from a terrible mistake and showed me what real love looks like. Grace, you didn't just clean my house. You helped clean up my life. Thank you for having the courage to speak the truth when I needed to hear it most. Grace wiped away tears as the room applauded. Later, as she danced with her grandson at the reception, Marcus heard her telling him, You see, baby? That's what happens when you pay attention and speak up for the people you love. Good things come from honesty and caring. 5 years later, Marcus and Amara had 2 children, and Grace was their honorary grandmother. She had officially retired, but still came by twice a week to see the kids and offer her wisdom. The penthouse had been sold, replaced by a brownstone in Grace's neighborhood where children's laughter filled the halls. One evening, as they all sat around the dinner table, Marcus, Amara, their children, Grace and her family, and Miss Ruby, Marcus reflected on how different his life had become. He was still successful in business, but his greatest achievement was the family he had built, both blood and chosen. Uncle Marcus, Grace's granddaughter asked, Is it true that Grace saved you from marrying a bad lady? Marcus looked at Grace with deep affection. Yes, it's true. Grace taught me that the people who really love you will tell you the truth, even when it's hard to hear. She showed me that real love isn't about money or status or pretending to be perfect. It's about showing up, being honest, and caring for each other. Like family, the little girl said wisely. Exactly like family, Marcus agreed, reaching over to squeeze Grace's hand. As the evening continued with laughter and stories, Marcus thought about that day years ago when Grace had stood in his penthouse, nervously wringing her hands, finding the courage to warn him about Victoria. That moment of bravery had changed the entire trajectory of his life. He had learned that sometimes the most profound love comes from unexpected places, from a housekeeper who sees you as family, from a grandmother who wants the best for her granddaughter, from a social worker who values character over wealth. These were the people who had shown him what real love looked like. The poor black maid who had warned him about the scammer had done more than save him from a bad marriage. She had opened his eyes to the authentic relationships that had been around him all along, teaching him that true wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in the people who genuinely care for you. As Grace often said, when you pay attention to what's underneath the surface, you find the real treasures in life. And Marcus Wellington, millionaire turned family man, had found treasures beyond his wildest dreams, all because he had listened to the wisdom of a woman society might have overlooked, but who had seen what truly mattered all along. The shocking thing the millionaire did next wasn't just avoiding a scammer. It was recognizing that the greatest love had been serving him coffee and caring for him all along, and choosing to honor that love by becoming part of Grace's family as much as she had become part of his. Have you ever had someone in your life like Grace? Someone who risked their position or relationship to tell you a difficult truth that ended up saving you from a major mistake? Share your story in the comments below. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to Beyond Yesterday YouTube channel for more incredible tales of unexpected wisdom, genuine love, and the life-changing power of truth. Hit that subscribe button now and join our family of story lovers who believe that the best narratives come from real human connections.